Welcome back to our Batesville High School Skill Development Series. As we continue our journey on becoming the world's greatest expert ourselves, two things we want to keep in mind. One, our foundation always is in the DISC behavior and assessment itself, right? So we have the categories of the D, the I, the S, and the C. We also have begun to introduce the motivators and the designations that go along with it. Today's objective is very simple. We want to be able to begin to align those together. So we have our DISC styles, and we know that our observable behaviors. We also want to align those with our motivator categories. So as we dive in, I always want to start back with our mission to become the world's greatest expert on yourself. We always align our mission with our vision to create desirable applicants through our opportunities, processes, and experiences. Specifically, today's objective, and this is the objective of using the motivator series, is to best understand personal and professional preferences, keyword, personal and professional preferences, so that our actions, which we always want to do, the greatest way to gain confidence is to act, align for superior performance and satisfaction. We're looking for those two at the end, specifically for superior performance, but also the personal and professional satisfaction that goes with a job well done. So this starts to outline some of our objectives for today. When we look at our last time, we said here are the 6 motivator categories and descriptions that go with them. Now we're going to start to drill down on this a little bit today, as taking past knowledge of our observable behaviors and align those to motivator categories so that we can begin to narrow some settings and some experiences that we said, yes, we've seen those show up, and look ahead. Where do we want to find ourselves throughout the second part of our high school experience and then beyond high school, where we think we can have some ideas and success simply by putting ourselves in the proper position. Let's take a look at how motivators and DISC work together. In our last session, we talked about the motivators are the why and what we do. So why do we do some things we do? Why are some things easier for us than others? Why do we feel more comfortable in different settings than the other? And what drives us to do it? Why am I willing and why am I able to do this again and again and again? Finding the consistency that we all look for in a way that we oftentimes expend less energy. That's in a setting where motivators are probably above the mainstream, more in the passion, and even sometimes in the extreme areas, or in other settings where we're a little bit indifferent about how we might go some things, where we maybe don't find the satisfaction or the joy that others might find in certain settings, simply because our motivators align to the indifferent designation of it based upon different categories. Again, each of these are unique to you, similar to the DISC assessment. We look at what the dominance, the influence, the steadiness, and the compliance. That starts to describe how a person works or performs in the environment. Together, when we find alignment in these areas, we start to work towards the specific actions it takes for a superior performance and overall superior satisfaction in what we do. So let's take a look at these. A little bit of review, we start to look at the high Ds. Again, these are with the D scores above 50 up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They oftentimes want to seek challenges. So we're looking at the D score, how one responds to problems and challenges. They want to seek challenges, and they tend to do these things. They tend to be assertive. They're primarily driven by independence. They're comfortable with being decisive, and they want control and a variety. If you have a D score up in the 60s or 70s, you probably fit many of these characteristics that we talk here today. What motivates you, though, or if you're working with somebody who's a high D and you start to recognize these traits, even if they're different than you, so what motivates these individuals? They're motivated by setting results and focused goals. They're action-oriented, they know exactly what they want, and they're looking to achieve specific objectives. They want independence in how to accomplish a task. Not only do they want to know what to do, and they have a very good idea how to do it, they want to be able to control the process and how they go about achieving that task. They're looking for opportunities for competition. So if you're not a D, but you're leading a group of Ds, or you have some people within your group that are high D by nature, and you can make something into a competition, they will find greater energy and probably greater performance if they're able to compete against different people in an appropriate manner. And they need new and challenging projects to go after. If a high D does the same thing day after day after day after day, sooner or later that's going to wear off and their motivation starts to wane and they lose interest over time. So whether you're a high D or whether you're working with high Ds, these are not only characteristics of the high D itself, but the bottom table represent what motivates those individuals. So if you find yourself in a situation that you can seek challenges and you start to be goal-oriented in the process, you're probably in the right spot. When we look at the high I, the question we're always trying to answer with the I is how does one who is an I respond and influence others to the point of view? We know the high Is tend to be verbal and persuasive, and they like this. They want to persuade people. They're driven by interaction. They're comfortable with being social and friendly, and they want approval and less structure. Those are all characteristics of the high I. The higher your I score, the more pronounced those four characteristics are. So how do you motivate that as an I? If you're an I, what are you motivated by? Or if you're working with high Is, how do you tend to motivate these individuals? You oftentimes want to make sure they have opportunities to work in teams. So whether you're a high I or whether you're working with high Is, the opportunity to work in teams allows for also the social recognition. So not only am I team-oriented and a social person, there's recognition that goes along with my values and the contributions. Oftentimes we have to be cognizant of feelings and concerns listened to. So when they provide their input or they provide their perspective, they need to feel heard and valued in what they have to say. And they also need new and exciting projects. These are typically individuals who get excited early on. This is the new thing they want to do. They want to work with others to get something accomplished. They have their feelings about how things should go about it. They find excitement in working with others on new and creative projects. So whether you're a high I or whether you're working with high I, you're going to see these characteristics at the top, and these individuals are often motivated by many of the things that are listed in the table below. When we look at the steadiness, those with a high S score, we're asking a very simple question: how do they oftentimes respond to the pace of the environment? These are oftentimes individuals who are single taskers and they're looking for one thing at a time before moving on to the next task. They oftentimes tend to be patient in their approach and then often how they work with others. They're primarily driven by stability. Some ways to look at it as they're oftentimes risk averse. They're comfortable with being part of a team. They oftentimes pair well with I's, and they want routine and harmony within the social interaction that they're working with. So when we think about what motivates a high S, or how when we have S's in our groups that have a high score, how do we motivate those individuals? Stability is the utmost important for the high S. They're motivated and they operate best in environments that provide tremendous stability, and then support. So support from those that they're working with and also support from the people that they report to. They want to achieve results through collaboration. This isn't a single task oriented where I'm going to do it by myself necessarily, but they want to work with others to find and work towards a defined objective. And there's great security in that. So not only achievement, but also knowing what's expected of them. So if you're a high S and you're looking at what type of environment I might have the most success in, or you're working with high S's, you want to look to do these four things that we have at the bottom here that provide that stable environment that's very supportive in nature. So whether you're working with them or whether they're reporting to you or being led by you, how supportive can you be? Can they achieve these results through collaboration? And do they feel secure, again, risk averse in their actions to achieve the stated objective? Our last part, when we talk about the high C, again, these individuals, we're asking how do they respond to rules and procedures established by others? These individuals tend to be contemplative. They're primarily driven by correctness and accuracy. They're comfortable with the order and planning of the system. Again, these are individuals that operate well within a system established by others, and they'll stay within that system in an attempt to get the achieved objective. And they want standards and logic. Does it make sense? Is it aligned to something that they believe in? So if you are a high C, or if you're working with C's within your group, these are often things that tend to motivate these individuals so that they can have superior alignment and satisfaction in their performance. To ensure accuracy, accuracy is the utmost important to individuals that are high C's. They want detailed information and explanation, so they want to know exactly what's expected of them and how to best go about getting that accomplished, and in oftentimes what format do they want. To consistently grow their expertise and knowledge, they are consumed by information, they value information. Again, they want to be very thought-provoking in what they do. The information helps support their ideas, and oftentimes these are individuals that want to work independently. They don't always display the characteristic of wanting to take over, but they're the ones that if you'll just give me a task, I'll go do it, and I'll report back to you, knowing that it's going to be well done, it's going to be accurate, and it's going to be the result of a lot of information that's poured into making their decisions. So whether you're a high C or you're leading a group of high Cs, you want to find ways to motivate these individuals, knowing that a team environment that's fast-paced, that requires a lot of interaction, is not going to be the environment where they're going to find the most success. They will be motivated, though, and they will provide superior performance, and they'll find satisfaction in the environment they're in if it's very accurate, if it's detailed-oriented with a lot of explanation. They can constantly grow their knowledge and expertise, and they have an opportunity to work independently. So as we look at these areas, now we want to clue in specifically to you. In today's activity, in today's lesson that we're going to start to identify your two top motivators with a designation and where you start to see alignment with the behaviors above the line with your D, the I, the S, and the C. Similarly, and just as important as what type of environments am I demotivated by? I'm indifferent to, so therefore probably not as worried about superior performance and satisfaction. So we'll also identify your bottom motivator, what designation you have there, and where we find with alignment with behaviors that are consistent with those scores that are below the line. I look forward to working with today's activity, and I appreciate you going on this journey with me so you become the world's greatest expert on yourself. Hopefully that you can put yourself in different situations where you start to experience and align for superior performance and satisfaction. As we wrap up today's objectives before we go into the activity, finding alignment between your motivators and behaviors is essential. It helps you put you in the best position possible. In our next session, we'll talk specifically about where we can find opportunities or experiences where skills, behaviors, and motivators align.